Hueston Woods 2019. All right, the course, the event, the excitement. It is going to be a glorious day, ironically quite chilly. So we're going to be there, and I'm happy to do some warm-up activities and drills with anyone who wants to do that. That would be really important, getting into the water with it being so chilly and a condition that we haven't had in quite some time. But glorious finish for the run, that's for darn sure. So just be prepared for that. Wear some good warm wintry clothes in the morning so your body and your muscles are nice and warm. Make sure through the athlete guide, and you were there on site today getting your pack up, pick up, that you took a look at the distance of the transition from the swim to the transition area. But the bike course, let's talk about the bike course. Woo! I rode that thing a few weeks ago, and gosh, here's how I felt about the bike course. It kept leaving me wanting more. It is a loop, which the run and the bike are both a loop, which has its pros and cons. But the loop of this bike course, while it is decent elevation gain, there's also some descents, there's also some flat, and some really fun sections where you can really utilize that momentum. When your bike is racked, as you saw, you have to go straight up a little hill to get out of transition onto the bike course, because it's a lollipop stick and then the lollipop. So just make sure that you're in the right gear. I wouldn't want to have it in the big ring and then a small cog on the back. I would want to keep it fall over going up that little hill, and or just spike your heart rate so much that you have a hard time bringing it back down when you're going out onto the bike course. So you get out onto the bike course. There's a good little activity when you're first going out, but just use that to settle in. Use that to be what wakes up your legs and your body to, we are now on the bike course of a triathlon. Good morning. And let your legs talk back to you, right? Let them say to you, okay, we're warming up, or we're not. If you have a power meter, be watching your power. Don't go too crazy. And then, of course, heart rate and your cadence. You know, keep it relaxed. Stay relaxed. Don't stress too much, because then you get out onto these nice stretches, really scenic. It's really quite beautiful out there in the area of Oxford. But then you can make sure to utilize the momentum. There's a couple of turns, and you get some straight action, and then you drop down and then go back up. I'm going to put pictures. Don't get too ecstatic when you see the pictures. They can be quite dramatic in description, but you get to use that momentum. So really be watching and feeling the road and feeling the bike underneath you. And if you shift or shift too early, shift back to where you were, or shift to where you want to be. And you can really use some of that fun momentum, and the weather's going to be so good. You shouldn't have a headwind, but we can check that in the morning as well. But that you'll be able to use the momentum to really guide you up at least the first third to a half of that hill, to then relax up the rest, but have a strong recovery, because most of them are either the type of rolling section, and or you get to that piece and then you get another straightaway or another turn. Let's talk about the covered bridge. They reference it very specifically in the athlete guide. Don't do this. Don't wait or slow down. It's not wait, isn't the right word. Don't get too concerned with stopping and smelling the roses at the bridge. It's a cool bridge. Fantastic. If you really want to take a look at the bridge, go out later. Enjoy it, but you come down a nice, decent descent, nothing crazy or dramatic, and you get to that descent, it levels out, you go under the bridge, and then gosh, maybe a quarter of a mile is when you start a false flat that goes into a climb, and it's a decent heartwarming climb. So don't, for the love of Pete, slow too much down when you're coming down that descent. Going under a bridge, be mindful. There usually is a bump at all bridges, but it's not a cobblestone. You don't have to come to a practical stop. So use the momentum, get through the bridge. The bridge is a gateway to a quarter mile of then a climb. So you want to get that momentum on that stretch. You want to utilize that and the power and the speed to help propel you up the first part of that falls flat into that climb. Because then you're getting really close to the last little, I'm going to call it a bunny hill, as you're approaching either going on the loop again and or coming back in for the race. So when you get up to the top of that previous stretch, you hang a right onto an access road. It's gorgeous. Again, very scenic route. And then you get to a stop sign and you hang a right, and it's called an access road. And it's fairly flat. I mean, you could almost argue that it descends a little bit, then it flattens out, and then you do this climb that our folks around here, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, can totally handle. You can totally handle this. You just have to know in your head, A, it isn't as hard as it really looks when you're on the bike. It's tough, but it's got some bend. Now you come up, you bend to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. And there'll even be a portion of this climb where you even feel like, oh, I could go a little harder or drop it down. It feels like it flattens out a little bit. It is not too crazy long, and frankly, it's a really great way to finish that bike course. And I think you'll really, really like it. Again, I really believe, especially with the gorgeous weather, that you'll have this similar feeling I did about the bike course leaves you wanting more, because it's fun, but it gives you that flat areas where you can really get very aero and have a really good ride. Now, for those of you doing the longer distances, more than a sprint, you get to do the course and then do the same loop again. That's the beauty of loops, right? You're like, oh, you could, if you didn't handle something well the first loop, keep that in mind, put it in your back pocket, adjust on the second time you go around. Now, the same with the run. So let's go to the run. So goodness, enjoy the bike loop, enjoy it. The bike, you come back in, rack your bike. The bike is part trail from what Nate and some of the fellas told me who ran it, Brandon and Nate and Mike. And it's not a walk in the park, let's put it that way. No pun on the state park, but it's not a walk in the park, but it is an out and back. So again, for those doing the sprint, it's an out and back, which who doesn't love a turn? When you get to that turn, now you're cruising home and you get to see people and you can remember what you've already accomplished, and then you can kick it into gear when you know you're approaching the 2.5 mile mark and getting closer to the 3 mile mark, and then kick it into gear and have a really strong finish. Those doing it twice, again, it's a loop. You settle in on your first loop. If you're feeling super strong, great, and really recognize what you love about that run course, because you're going to do it again, and you can slam it on the second time. Or if there's sections that you just need some time to do a system check and think through how I'm feeling to get it back in, pull it back in. There may be times on a course during a race you just don't feel you have it, but it can come back. Make sure with the fueling, even though this weather's great, that you're drinking plenty of water and whatever other fuel that you use in a hydration format, but also the food fuel or goos or gels, etc. So still really important even when the weather conditions don't seem as humid or as hot. So Hueston Woods, it really is a nice course, very scenic and challenging, but not so much so that it just destroys you. And you can make that course work for you and enjoy it. But we know these events are fun and tough and epic, and we will be there cheering you on, and we know you're going to be absolutely amazing. So go get them. Talk to you soon.